Alright guys, TacticalRab again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. Huge CDL cheating drama emerging overnight with potential Rookie of the Year candidate Abuzah of the Seattle Surge getting called out by current Rookie of the Year Scrappy over potentially breaking a gentleman's agreement that would constitute cheating in an official CDL game as far as the pro players are concerned. What would the repercussions of this potentially be? The evidence looks very strong indeed. Octane and Zoomer certainly seem to think so. Very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always, I would greatly appreciate it. Plenty to get into today. Thought it was kind of crazy as well. Yesterday, 10 years ago, UMG Philadelphia, which of course Complexity won, taking down Team Calor as it was back then way in the finals. Also some drama though on this whole Biffle thing, just to follow up on it, because we saw these comments maybe a week or so ago from Repulse that apparently Biffle had received multiple CDL offers, if not, well, starting offers in the CDL, which is what he said he'd be a top 5 player, all this type of stuff. Now, you know, we kind of questions the validity of this, especially because Biffle, or especially because Repulse, sorry, didn't say which teams, didn't want to say, so I can't tell you. If I told you, you wouldn't believe me, all this type of stuff. Stuxman did some digging into this, asking around the CDL teams, because as far as he had heard, this wasn't the case. And sure, I believe that teams had potentially talked to Biffle, but you know, the idea that there was a starting offer that he declines, or even just any offers in general that he declines, was an entirely different picture entirely. And look, maybe there were talks with Biffle in previous seasons, and Repulse actually goes on to reply to this in a second. But this is what you know, the article goes on to say. We can confirm at 2 points. Over the past few weeks, Breaking Point has spoken with representatives from the front offices of all 12 CDL teams regarding these comments on the starting spot offers apparently that he received. We can confirm 2 points. No CDL team extended any starting offers to Biffle. Only one CDL team confirmed that they expressed interest in Biffle heading into Modern Warfare 2. One team discussed the possibility with Biffle, but nothing official. A team representative commented, he's definitely got the talent, but we'd need to see him play in challenges, which is kind of like the whole point, right? And also, Biffle has to show that he's interested to do it. I actually feel kind of bad for Biffle about this whole thing, because I don't really think that he's particularly bothered, and he doesn't necessarily need to be, right? I mean, he's killing it in the Warzone side, you know, making good money over there. Why should he go and play for a minimum salary in the CDL for no reason? So if he's not actually, you know, so bothered about it, and then he's getting all this attention, you know, I kind of feel bad in a way. But anyway, a different CDL representative stated his agent contacted us, and we never responded, which is kind of interesting that his agent was at least reaching out. Look, even if Biffle isn't interested, maybe he is, but even if he isn't interested, then I guess there's no harm in his agent talking to certain teams and saying, all right, you know, would you be interested for like a big bag? And then obviously they're going to say no, but I guess there's no harm in it. So yeah, while Biffle's representation reached out to multiple teams, the majority of CDL teams we spoke with had no active communication with the Warzone star. Former head coach of Toronto and Gorillas Marky B went on the record officially, we never had a conversation, wasn't even mentioned when I was involved with Ultra or the Gorillas. So that even, you know, concludes over the last couple of years as well. So yeah, what do you guys think about this? To be honest, I think that there's a lot of yeah, there's a lot of people that say, oh, Warzone players, you know, they won't be able to make it and everything in the CDL. I'd like to see it, you know. I don't think it would be a bad thing. I think it would actually be a massive positive for the scene if Biffle was to come over, get signed, and, you know, grind challenges maybe for a few months, prove to be good enough, go into a team with maybe like a veteran type leader figure that could help bring him up. I think it'd be really good. I mean, Biffle would have you know, great support from the Warzone side. I think it would help kind of grow the scene and probably reduce some of the polarization to some degree. So I don't think it'd be a bad thing for the league. I actually, you know, I'd like to see it. I think we should be promoting this type of stuff, to be honest. I think it's better overall. But, you know, in this scenario, Repulse's comments just don't really seem to have any weight as far as we are concerned. Now, Repulse then actually goes on to reply to this and says, in a couple of years, when we're able to talk about it all, gonna need an apology out of you. And he says, all right, you know, this episode is gonna go crazy. So, couple of years, like, what are we talking about here? Like, it's not particularly uncommon that there's rumors of teams or players, let's say not even Warzone guys, but just players joining other CDL teams, that then either doesn't happen or it does happen, and then what, a month later, 2 months later, when the off season is over, people talk about it, right? You know, we full well know that Envoy, we believe, had offers from potentially Boston. We believe, or we know full well, that Drazah was getting the OpTic offer. Drazah talked about it. Like, it's not exactly a massive faux pas to talk about this type of stuff. So I don't really understand why we would need a couple of years, unless what Repulse is getting at, well, in a couple of years, everyone would have forgotten about this, so then we don't have to talk about it anymore. I don't know, but yeah, where do you guys lie on this, all things considered? Definitely an interesting story. Now, this, though, is the more interesting story that, as far as I'm concerned, the Seattle Surge, Abuzah, potential GA cheating drama saga, whatever you want to say. It was only a matter of time until something like this happens, and it's happening in the early part of January. So, Attach said something about scrim watching, and Attach was like, oh, let me spectate, etc, etc. I don't know if this was related to what we're about to see, but it might well have been, because teams have been suspicious of certain players breaking gentlemen's agreements. This is one of the most recent GA lists. We saw, of course, in, I mean, what was this? Yeah, end of November now, when the pros, can you believe it, actually agreed to GA snaking, to GA sound EQ, and plenty of other things as well. Now, the other part of this is auto tactical sprint and single tap to sprint, which is different to single tap run, is being debated tonight. Now, basically, they eventually agreed that, all right, we're going to get rid of snaking, we're going to get rid of sound EQ, and these are things that the league is not mandating. So you've got to understand that if you break these rules in the game itself, the league, the referees aren't going to do anything about it unless they actually work with the league to find a way to integrate these into the official rule set. But that's never probably going to happen, apart from possibly some of these setting related things. Snaking, the CDL is never going to do anything about because it's a feature of the game. The pros have to manage that themselves. But last year on LAN, if you used sound EQ, that wasn't allowed. I think it was turned off on the official PCs. So it was kind of like a CDL rule that sound equalization as a setting in the Windows settings was disabled, but for whatever reason they couldn't manage that online, so it caused a load of drama. This year, the players say we're not going to do it anyway. This, though, was the big talking point. And I'm not going to lie, in my opinion, I'm not even sure this stuff to be GA'd. The reason why the pros GA it is because the idea is that it helps players with bad movement get better movement, right? If you want to tactical sprint, you've got to press that left stick twice, whereas if you've got auto tactical sprint on, you simply move your left thumbstick forwards and it auto tactical sprints for you. And then single tap sprint, this is the one we're going to discuss here, is when you tap it once and then you tactical sprint rather than doing it twice. Now, I know lots of you guys out there, myself included, play with this setting because it's better for your thumbs, I think. It's better for not destroying your controllers, I think. And it's arguably the way that the game maybe could or should be played, given the fact that nowadays there is two different types of sprints and there hasn't been for, you know, back in the day, you just pressed it once and then you would sprint, and nowadays you have to do it twice. So, you know, this has been a feature, but the pros have said between each other, right, we're not going to use that because we think it makes it easy for players with bad movements like myself, for example. So you can definitely debate whether this should be GA'd or not, but the pros agreed in November to get rid of it, along with all the other things they got rid of. Now, Abuzah tweeted this out a couple of days ago, on pretty much the start of January, me with my tac sprints. So people were like, okay, what do you mean exactly? What do you mean by that? And even Diamond Con says exactly what do you mean by that, especially when we see the announcement of yesterday with regard to the red cards. Now, we saw this happen for Skyz and for other pro players, and it looks like Abuzah's been red carded. Now, where this came from is because Scrappy of Toronto Ultra, and it's kind of funny that you can look at, okay, was it actually Scrap that discovered this first? Was he the one that was mostly suspicious? Was it other players that were talking about this behind the scenes as a possibility? I don't know, but in the end, Scrappy sent some clips over to Zoom and Octane to review on stream from a match they played up against the Atlanta FaZe. So this was the league game they played against FaZe, and from Abuzah's point of view, you can look at it and kind of tell what's going on. Now, this is always the tricky part with some of these settings, that even Crimsix, right, didn't he use auto tac sprint back in MW19, and I think he eventually got caught, but he used it for like a month and nobody was really any the wiser, because it's not a setting that unless you have access literally to go into their, you know, to their PC and have a look at what settings they're running, you don't know for sure from visuals alone. Now, you know, maybe the same you could argue with snaking as well, but in this instance, with the way that single tap works, if you look closely at the way the movement works, as Octane is going to explain, you can see that, you know, with an overwhelming level of likelihood, he's using single tactical sprint in these examples. It's basically because if you have single tap to sprint on, it's impossible to have normal sprint at all. So especially when he's in a corridor and he sprints again, and you see that the gun just immediately goes to the tac sprinting position, that is very indicative of having single tap to sprint on. So this is what well, I'll share the clips.
You guys can see it. Let's watch it. close spawn. You did have Cellium.
But how can you tell? I don't understand.
Because he can't regular sprint. His gun's never going to be low, if that makes sense. Like, he's never regular sprinting.
Great job here with that initial push.
Okay, so right there, he insta did it right there.
Okay, I saw that there. I saw that there.
Yeah, he did it like in place.
I saw that there.
Yeah.
Chad, what do you think? What do you think? Did that look like a auto tap? Did it look like a tapped?
Here, back up to when he does it. But
I am. I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna go back.
Inside a junk, so maybe that allows them.
What do you think, man? Is that tap the sprint or no? What if he's just double? What if he's just double pressing really fast?
No.
Teammates, they take down Drazah. That
might
starts
be
the assault onto the hill. A couple of sections of scrapped.
Okay, there's more clips. That's one of them. And he also sent me this one. Okay.
I think someone's gonna have to turn around a little bit.
Same series, Lord.
Just from a
Tough one.
standpoint. Granted, at times this FaZe team, they'll have the slaying advantage and still win narrow games in the past, but hopefully they'll have a different identity with Drazah on this roster. But you're looking to start the
yeah, that is most certainly single tap.
Some openings because all the points going the way of
If it does, he never regular.
Wait, can you actually just tell just by?
Yeah, because you can't never regular sprint, Hector. Like, you completely skip over.
Oh yeah. I see what you mean.
If you have double tap on, you'll at least do it for a second. You know what I mean?
What if he's him? You know what I'm saying?
No, this one's like blatant though. Like, he does it like 6 times in a row.
So say it again, Sam. What can't he do?
So you'll never, like, his gun, like, you know when you regular sprint, your gun is horizontal, and when you tack sprint, your gun is vertical. And he never his gun is never horizontal regular sprinting because it has on single tap. Like, it's not even a possibility for him to regular sprint unless he tack sprints until it runs out.
So I wonder exactly where this discussion came from, as in, did somebody play Surge in a scrim this week and think, you know what, this Abuzah guy, I'm not so sure his movement looks fully legit in terms of what the rest of us are using. So then let's go back to some CDL games from last year and actually see whether you can find any evidence of this in the game. And Scrappy therefore found a couple of clips that he believes are evidence of doing exactly this. Now, the repercussions for this are very interesting. You can obviously have the debate as to whether this should even be GA'd in the first place, whether everybody should be allowed to use single tap sprints, but this has been a well-known GA. Like, I don't think Abuzah can just have not been aware that the pros had decided to get rid of it. I think it's been common knowledge now for quite some time. So these are the questions on what the repercussions for this are going to be, because sure, the CDL isn't going to do anything about it unless the pros can agree with the league that actually, you know what, especially on LAN, this setting is going to have to be manually disabled. Because snaking is one thing, and look, Skyz did it in a pretty crucial moment against the Los Angeles Guerrillas, caused lots of drama and controversy as a result. However, this one, you literally have to select the setting, right? I mean, you have to choose it in the menu to have it on. Maybe you can argue that, oh, it was an accident, I left it on by mistake, but yeah, I don't really buy that idea. So often you can argue with snaking, oh, was it deliberate, was it not deliberate? You know, this is seemingly a deliberate violation, potentially because players think they can get away with it. And I don't necessarily blame them for thinking they can get away with it. Actually dealing with these GAs and managing them is so difficult that you can totally understand why players think, well, you know what, I probably won't get caught, so I'll just turn it on and give myself an advantage over the other players. Now, he has been caught. What's he going to do? Are other players doing this as well? What are the repercussions going to be? Because Skyz, let's not forget, was, well, he was told that they weren't going to warm up. Basically, Subliners didn't get a warm up for the series they played because Skyz snaked, and that was the backlash. And I think that was probably relatively justified, and that was one instance. However, Abuzah has potentially been using this since the start of the league, every series, every match that's been played, and, you know, deliberately defying or violating GAs, at least as far as Octane and Zuma and these other guys are concerned, looking at those clips. So I would argue that the repercussions should probably be more severe, potentially, than what's happened to Skyz and the Subliners. I don't know what that will look like. I don't know whether that's a scrim blacklist. I don't know whether they, you know, don't warm up them forever, whether Surge, like, never get any warm-ups from now to the end of Major 1 cycle. I don't know. Definitely intrigued to your thoughts on this in the comment section below, because there's a lot of side to this argument, really. I would like to see what Abuzah would have to say to this as a response, and also whether any other players are doing this as well. I think it was a little while ago now that GodRx, they, I think they asked Clayster, like, hey, is GodRx using single tap? And Clay said, no, he'd show me his settings, he he's not using it. So, you know, it's difficult to fully confirm. But when you have a league match with the POV of the player and you can get the official evidence, which is, you know, almost undeniable, arguably, according to at least Octane's point of view, then you can make a strong case. And even as Fellow says, though, people in challenges are still shamelessly running it. So this is the problem with these GAs. Sure, snaking, you might be able to uphold that GA, but the tactical sprint or single tap to sprint related gentlemen's agreements are almost impossible to uphold in challenges, and even in the Pro League, it's seemingly becoming difficult. But if they make an example out of Abuzah and the pros, you know, blacklist Surge or do something quite extreme, then it will set a precedent as to what the pros are trying to achieve here. But very much interested your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.